Good to see you. Good to see you. Come on in. Uh-oh. Get too early to protest. You're gonna wait a while to protest. Oh, you're starting first. That's right.
They got drinks tonight. You want something to drink? What do you like to drink? That's actually wild that you drink that at this age. Okay. Damn Tito's. What'd you say? What'd you like to drink? Who's gluten free? You worried about gluten right now? You drink alcohol with gluten? Right. What you like to drink, man? I think they got ginger ale. I can get you ginger ale. Would you like anything from still working? A diet Pepsi? Is that it? If they don't have that. Write it down in my notes before I forget.
Check. Hello? Hello?
So good evening, everyone. We're about to get started. Oh, you all look so lovely out here. Thank you so much for coming. So good evening. My name is Ramona Johnson. I'm the current president of the League of Women Voters of Baltimore County. And we want to welcome you here this evening, ladies, gentlemen, and invited guests. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Baltimore County Executive Candidate Forum. That's a mouthful. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose purpose is to promote active involvement in government. As an organization, the League does not support or oppose candidates for public office or any political party. This program reflects the League's mission to support informed participation and a key foundation of democracy, which is voting. Everybody's right, and we encourage everyone to use it. Voting is power. First, before we get started, we would like to hear from Dr. Elaine Meyer-Lee, Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs, who will bring greetings from our partner, Goucher College.
Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome. On behalf of our president, Kent Devereaux, who couldn't be here this evening, I'm delighted to welcome you all to this important forum this evening as part of our healthy, informed democracy. Goucher College is proud of our status as a private, independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit institution where honest debate and discussion of the issues of the day from a diversity of viewpoints is always welcome on our campus. We're also glad for the opportunity to serve as a resource for Towson and the surrounding communities of Baltimore County and the greater Baltimore region, and we look forward to seeing many of you at a future event on our campus. We were originally founded as a college for women and are delighted to partner with the League of Women Voters of Baltimore County on this event. Now, without further ado, please join me in thanking the League for bringing us this event.
Thank you so much. And just a special thank you to Goucher College for their tremendous support in providing this fantastic space for us. We can't thank you enough. Thank you. So before I move on, I do want to recognize and thank also our board of directors as well as our executive director. So could you all please stand? Thank you. So our moderator this evening represents a proud heritage and legacy of advocacy for people's rights. In fact, he speaks out and advocates for people every morning. Let's all put our hands together and welcome our moderator this evening from WBAL Radio. Look, Clarence Mitchell, fourth.
Otherwise known as C4.
Yeah, otherwise C4.
Thank you, President Johnson. Yeah, when you have three Clarence Mitchells sitting at the dinner table, something's got to happen with that. You can't say Clarence 3 different times. So my grandfather was Big Clarence. My father was Little Clarence. That takes those up, so it had to be C4. Had to come there. It was Clarence Mitchell III, Clarence Mitchell Jr. Anyway, thank you very much, President Johnson, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you again, Goucher College. Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Baltimore County Executive Candidates Forum. Now, this event is important because it provides important information for all residents and for voters when you go to the polls to select your next county executive. Now, the county executive is the chief administrative officer of Baltimore County who provides direction to all county departments and proposes plans, programs, budget, policies, and legislation to the county council. Now, tonight's forum focuses on giving the public the opportunity to get to know these candidates right here better, as well as allowing the candidates to present their positions on various issues that are important to you and other members of the county. Now, the program will begin with opening statements, then we'll move on to key questions composed by the league. We should have time then for questions from you, our audience. Afterwards, candidates will be giving closing statements. Now, out of fairness, candidates will be speaking in random order for their statements and responses to the questions that we put to them. Responses will be timed. The timer will alert a candidate 15 seconds before the time ends. Generally, a candidate will be allowed to finish a sentence once started. And just an addendum, this isn't written, but I am very good at reminding folks that their time is up, so just so we understand. First of all, we ask you, I did this, so I started with me. First of all, we asked your cooperation on a couple of basic rules. Please, everyone, silence your phones now if you have not silenced your phones. Also, audience members are please asked to refrain from shouting or interrupting the candidates during this process. We know you have your favorites. I see the shirts out there, but just please let everyone have an opportunity. I appreciate it. I will now introduce the candidates who are participating in tonight's forum. As each name is called, will each candidate please stand? First, I'd like to introduce to you Assistant County Attorney and Attorney Patrick V. Dwyer, who's a Republican. Attorney Dwyer. It's okay to clap now. You can do that now. Next, Baltimore County Councilman Julian Jones. Baltimore County Councilman Izzy Patoka. Marine veteran Mansour Shams, a Democrat. Former active member of the PTA, Parents-Teacher Association in Baltimore County, and wife and mother, Kimberly Stansbury, also a Republican. Attorney Nick Stewart, Attorney Stewart. And Baltimore County Councilman Pat Young. Now we will move to opening statements from the candidates. Now, each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for opening remarks. Now, the timekeeper will give, again, a 15-second alert. To keep us on track, we request members of the audience to please remain quiet throughout the forum. I let you clap at the beginning so you get it out of you. But from this point forward, no clapping, cheering, or calling out. At the end of the evening, after the closing statements, we may then rise in applause for all of the candidates. So we're going to begin in this order, all right? First, with the opening statement, Baltimore County Councilman Julian Jones.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councilman Julian Jones, and Martin Luther King said, "We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now." And Baltimore County right now are facing some serious challenges. First of all, it seems as though we are at war with the Trump administration. They literally owe us millions of dollars. State budget deficits are causing the state to pass more money on to us here in Baltimore County. And with limited revenue, I constantly see us in Towson rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, in addition to those items, we are faced with other concerns. Like we've had a declining population 3 of the last 4 years, incomes are declining, and many people can't find a home here in Baltimore County. This is a time for study experienced leadership. This is not a time for novice or unproven or untested or inexperienced. We will have enough inexperienced people on the county council with 7 of the 9 seats that will be new. I am a proven, experienced, compassionate leader with a track record of accomplishments. You see, I've spent 32 years in the fire department. I rose through the ranks, becoming a lieutenant, captain, battalion, and division chief. I had the honor of leading Maryland forces to New Orleans during the devastation caused by Katrina. And I've saved many lives and had as many as 850 people under my command. I've been on the county council for 12 years. I've been chairman for 4. I've led on issues such as gun control, college promise, free breakfast and lunch for our kids, police reform, and many more. And with your support, I will use that experience, that knowledge and abilities to, number 1, keep us safe. As a first responder, I know what it takes to keep us safe. Number 2, I have a plan for our kids. We're going to give our children the best education possible. I'm proud of the fact that I was a PTA president for 5 years, and then my wife was a PTA president during middle school. So we know what it takes being in the school each and every day to help educate our children. Number 2, we want to provide recreation. The best, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And number 3, we want to provide employment opportunities for our young people. And most importantly, I want to grow our economy. I want to make sure we're bringing jobs here to Baltimore County and new businesses. That way, we won't have to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Let's next, Kimberly Stansberry. Opening statement.
Hi, many of you know me. I've been in this community for almost 50 years. I came as a child with my parents. I am the daughter of a construction worker and a disabled mother. I went to Baltimore County schools. I graduated from Northern High School. Back then, you could get a quality education from our schools, and we need to bring that back to Baltimore County. The current rates of only 50% at grade level for reading and 40-some% for math is not acceptable in this county. We put 1/2 of our budget into Baltimore County schools. I don't see it getting down to the classroom. We need to make it where our children have the best education possible so they can achieve whatever they dream of doing or being. Now, it's a long road, but we can do it. Does Baltimore County have problems? Of course we do. Every county, every city, every state has problems, but it's nothing that we can't solve if we work together. We need to make sure that our communities are safe. To listen to people speak, they have this idea that Baltimore County is not safe. However, we're being told by the police department it's very safe here. So there's a disconnect between the perception and what they put out, for us to, crime stats. We need to make sure that the people of Baltimore County are safe, that they feel safe. Many people have told me, I don't go out after dark to the grocery store because I do not feel safe. This has to change. We are all here in this county. So let's make our county safe, make it a place where our kids get a good education, where they go on to get good jobs, build their families, and stay in Baltimore County. This is what we need. We cannot let our people just walk away to other jurisdictions because taxes are lower, that the quality of life is better. We can have that here, and that's what I am working for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimberly Stansberry. Next, Baltimore County Councilman Pat Young. Councilman Young.
Here we go. warm and a beautiful day for baseball. So, and folks that didn't realize, the Orioles did win 2-1 against the Twins, and I think that was important for folks that were paying attention to know this is the first time I've not taken my last 5 years. It's important to be here, and it's important for you to hear from us to recognize that we all believe that Baltimore County is a place with potential, a place with that we know that we want to keep our families moving, and that we want to make sure that at the end of the day, where we've chosen to put in roots and where we've chosen to live meets our own expectations into the future, into the next 8 years. For the last 11 years, I've served in elected office. I served 8 years in the Maryland General Assembly, served on the Appropriations Committee. And in that time, I helped to fashion a multi-billion-dollar budget, making sure that we're spending our taxpayer dollars responsibly. And on the council for the last 3 years, I've chaired the Spending Affordability Committee, putting that experience that I had at the state level with state budgets to work at the county level, making sure that we ensure that we keep our AAA bond rating and that we have guardrails in place to make sure that we're tracking our spending and not going above or beyond our means. Not only that, but my time in the United States Marine Corps taught me something about leadership. And what engaging with the public and the voting population in Baltimore County for the last 11 years has taught me that the folks that show up to vote in the primary and the general election recognize the difference between leaders and folks that are trying to be something and those that are trying to do something. And at the end of the day, what I believe and where I've set my entire career on has been providing transparency and more opportunities for the public to engage in government. I was raised to believe that government's a backstop. It's where we go to solve problems. But unfortunately, when we get away from this concept and this mission that we serve others first, and that we are a reflection of the public that we're here to serve, when we get away from that concept, we start to do things internally, we start to push the public out, and they don't feel that they have ownership of the decisions of the direction that their government's moving. I've built my career on that, providing as many opportunities for folks to engage with us and with local government. As a councilman, one of the first pieces of legislation I passed was providing more opportunities for the public to engage with the council during the legislative process. And when I think about the issues that we have in front of us, we're not unique or need to staff our police department, our fire department appropriately, but we are unique in that we've tried no new ideas to try and recruit. We've done nothing new in the last 15 years to try and show that Baltimore County is a place for a career and for folks to live, work, and play. And we need to do better at that to make sure that the vacancies we currently have in the police department and the fire department are met. We've worked hard at the state level and at the local level to make sure that our schools represent and look like the places that we believe our kids should be learning, and we need to do everything that we can, one, but also as the county executive, to make sure that we're putting a budget in place that reflects what we expect our education system to look like for our children.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Hopefully we'll monitor your microphone, make sure it's on and going back and forth. Thank you, Councilman. Next, we will hear from County Councilman Izzy Patoka. Councilman.
Thank you, C4. And C4, I'm gonna share with you what I believe everybody in this room is thinking. Can we do this outside? So thank you to the League of Women Voters and thank you to Goucher College. My name is Izzy Patoka and I'm running for county executive. I'm a local boy. I went to Woodlawn High. I'm also a basketball coach. I coach 15, 17-year-olds at Pikesville Rec. My parents were Holocaust survivors. They never had a chance for any education, but to them it was really important to make sure that their children got educated. And so I went to Towson University where I earned a bachelor's and master's, both in environmental planning. And I've always been community-centered. I've led a 3-decade career in public service. As an urban planner, a city planner, deputy director of planning for Baltimore County. I've authored and managed multi-billion-dollar budgets for both Baltimore City and for Baltimore County. I've authored and managed complex operating budgets. Over my 3-decade career, I served in a senior level in the mayor's office of Baltimore City, and I also served at a senior level in the governor's office for the state of Maryland, where I managed simultaneously the governor's office of community initiatives, where I was the executive director. I was the governor's intergovernmental affairs director. I headed up the governor's coordinating offices, and I also directed the state's AmeriCorps program. I've also had experience in the private sector at LifeBridge Health, where I was the first community development director at LifeBridge Health to ensure that the neighborhoods that were adjacent to their campus locations were strong. I also managed for LifeBridge Health the highest performing aging in place program in the region called Hubs. As a county council member, I've never been afraid to take on heavy legislative lifts, the difficult ones, like reducing classroom size through the adequate public facilities ordinance. This one was really tough, expanding the county council so that we better reflect the diversity of the demographics of Baltimore County. And if you look at the candidates that are running for county council now, many are in this room, it is the most diverse set of candidates in age, in race, in gender, in the history of Baltimore County. That deserves, oh, no, never mind. See, they're not applauding, C4.
all right,
They're
that's
not
all right.
applauding.
We're moving.
I put in protections for the inspector general. I implemented a plastic bag ban, and I put up guardrails against ICE. Now I'm ready to be the next county executive for Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from candidate Mansour Shams. Mr. Shams. Yes?
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. So why am I running? I'm running because I hurt. I hurt for the kids in this county that go to bed hungry every day. I hurt for our seniors who've spent decades paying into the system through taxes on everything that they buy, on their wages, property taxes year after year after year, helping to power this very economy. And now, in their most vulnerable stage of life, they're being told they still have to pay those property taxes, even in some cases where they own the home. That's not just wrong, that's called cruel policy making. And I heard for the families who are doing everything right, but continue to fall behind. I understand instability firsthand. My parents divorced when I was very young, 2 or 3 years old. I saw courtrooms. I saw the realities of a broken home. I grew up in Section 8 housing. I saw food stamps. I even spent a very short time in the foster care system. And in a very strange way, I'm not sure if I should be standing before you today, but for some bizarre reason, I am. And that's exactly why I take this so seriously. In the Marines, I learned something very simple, that when there's an open wound, you close that open wound first. Right now, to me, affordability is that open wound. So let me tell you quickly about Destiny, someone who I met. She wakes up at 4 a.m., works 2 jobs, spends hours commuting. And she told me it's still not enough. So I asked, why? Why can't one job sustain her? Why are the basic costs so high? And what is government doing to stabilize her life? Because when people are deciding between groceries and BGE bills, that is the open wound. So my campaign, first and foremost, is focused on closing that wound. First, a household stabilizing fund, up to $250 per household, earning less than $75,000 a year. County mini-marts, basic essentials at reduced costs right in your communities in county-owned buildings. Third, property tax reform for seniors and disabled veterans, and direct access meetings where anyone can book a meeting with the county executive through a public calendar posted on the county's website. No more gatekeepers, no barriers. But let's also be very honest. While families are struggling, we've seen decisions made by our local government where leaders chose to increase their salaries and nearly double their pensions. And today, those same individuals, our respected council members, are asking you to elect them to this office. That should give us all pause. We cannot meet the challenges ahead by choosing the same old. We cannot meet the challenges ahead with the same thinking that created them. Now, I want to tell you, I don't have the answer to everything, but I know my mind and my heart is in the right place, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, Attorney Nick Stewart. Attorney Stewart.
Thanks, C4. Hey, good evening. My name is Nick Stewart, and I am so honored to be with you all tonight. Look, the truth is, and we talk about this a lot, we are up against it as a county. We have great challenges, but the reason I have hope is because look who turned out on opening day. Look who turned out from our county. We have all of the talent and strength and assets that we need. It's in this room. It is all throughout our great county. If you think about Howard County, they have almost a third of our population. They have more boards and commissions than we do. And we have all of this potential and promise right here in front of us. And so it's my pledge to you. If you hear anything from me tonight, it is this: that we would be able to take power out of Towson and put it into your hands. This is not really about any of us. It's about you. And it's about what kind of tools and what kind of platform you need in order to solve our challenges and your challenges in your communities in partnership with your government. What we are doing is not working. I love this county. I do. I think you're here tonight because you do too. I went to Delaney High School, right up the street, go Lions. And the truth of the matter is we're trying to raise our kids in this county too. We have 4 of them. They're 10, 8, 6, and 5. So it's very, very busy and very, very messy. And my wife is here tonight as well. Thank you, Katie. You know, but the county that we're looking at, and when we look at this through their eyes, they are watching us, all of our kids are, on what kind of county they are going to inherit. At bottom, we have a sameness problem in Baltimore County. And if we vote for more of the same, we are going to get more of the same. And so I am running for a fresh start. I'm running because this county has got to be more affordable, yes, but more inclusive and more modern too. Hear me out when I say this. This is a moment of crisis. 2/3 of us are choosing between groceries and other essentials right now in our county. It's never been harder to buy a home in Baltimore County based on income than it is right now. Incomes have fallen for 5 years in a row in Baltimore County. And over 1/3 of our students in Baltimore County Public Schools, 33,000 plus, live in extreme poverty. They're going to school hungry. They are coming home and going to bed hungry. This is our county. They are all of our kids. And it's our obligation to step up to the plate. And instead of that, in these last few years, what we have seen is a county council, including every member who is standing or is here on this dais, voting to double their pensions instead of putting a flag in the ground and saying, if I have to die on this hill, I will die on this hill because it matters for others. We are here for others. That's why you're here too. Look, I really do, that we are one county. We are North County, we are Towson, we are East, we are West, but we are one county. If we band together and we rise to meet this moment, we can solve for these challenges. It's on us to choose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. Thank you. And our final opening statement will be given by Attorney Patrick Dwyer. Attorney Dwyer? Dyer.
Thank you so much, C4, and thank you for having me here this evening. I appreciate it. I need to correct the record. I'm not an attorney. I'm a businessman, so let me set that straight.
There you go. I appreciate that.
But thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge my own special league of women voters that have joined me here this evening. My youngest daughter, Rose, my wife, and one of my 3 sisters is here. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I am one of 6 kids, all growing up in Baltimore County. Collectively, we are nurses, teachers, doctors, Air Force officers, and I thank you, my brother John, for your service. Moms, dads, I'm truly blessed. Nary a politician yet, and I stress yet. Baltimore County is a great place. We have everything we need to be a thriving community, a great community, and a community built for the future, just like the one I grew up in. But I also believe that Baltimore County is at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads because of leadership that has gone stale. We've had one-party political rule. We've had the notion that only professional long-term politicians can serve effectively as county executive. We have a lack of courage to make tough decisions, and boy, we need to make some tough decisions needed while in office. And a true forgetfulness about who the people are that pays the bills to run this county. It's you, the taxpayers. Like I said, I was born and raised in Baltimore County. My wife and I are raising our children, our 4 children in the county. I have built my business in Baltimore County. Baltimore County will continue to be my home. I feel I can provide the leadership we need to address the challenges we face in a county of over 840,000 people. Our challenges have not created themselves. The simple fact of the matter is our problems have not created themselves. They have been created by failed policies. I believe we need fresh new leadership in this county. I come from the business world. I have owned my own financial services firm, and you learn valuable lessons. And I will bring that experience to serve as your next county executive. Thank you.
Right, giving time back, appreciate that. Thank you, businessman Patrick Dyer. I truly appreciate that. Next, we will move into the questions selected by the league. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes to respond to the questions. And as I ask this question, we've been asked, please, candidates, when you respond, if you could please stand so that the audience could better understand who's speaking and that type of thing, and then you can get back to being seated. Thank you very much. The first question is, how do your, and I will repeat the question each time a candidate responds, so you'll have to remember this. How do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? We will begin with Kimberly Stansberry.
I'm so short, I'm not sure it matters if I sit or
You look
stand.
great. You look great.
You know, I have been in Baltimore County, like I said, most of my life. While I was here, I was that mom that was in the PTA. I was that mom that planned the carnivals. I was the mom that sewed the band uniforms. I was the mom that was in the classroom helping out in kindergarten, first grade, whenever I was needed. After that, I went to the Boy Scouts, where I taught citizenship in the world, in the nation, and in the community. I tried to make our boys understand that we do have responsibilities as a citizen. One of them is voting, which is one of the most important things that you will ever do in your life. It doesn't matter what party you are. You vote with your heart. Sure, I want you to vote for me, but I want you to vote for the candidate that most, reconciles with your beliefs, with your system. Who helps you the most? I'm very open to ideas. I think our young people are one of the most incredible group that I have ever seen. I enjoy sparring back and forth with ideas. I enjoy making them understand that they can do or be anything that they want to be. So here I am running for county executive, and I'm proving my point. It's never too late. I ran a business. Well, I still do. I don't own it, but I run a physical therapy company for the past 32 years. So I know the business world. Before that, I was working for an engineering firm. So I have business experience. But most of all, I have organization. You cannot do Boy Scouts without organization, and I can make this county run better. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. I'll repeat the question again, and once again, I'll do that with each candidate so you know what you're being asked. How do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Nick Stewart, you're next.
Well, you heard me mention that I have 4 kids, so I know how to manage chaos. So that part's good. Look, the experiences I have, which inform this, are surrounded around the things I believe have brought us to a point of crisis. That is housing, that is schools, that is jobs. On housing, I founded about 5 years ago now a group called We the People, Baltimore County, to focus on the housing crisis that's now here, to try to get ahead of it. And I butted heads with the county council that didn't agree with these ideas and instead passed what amounted to a racist housing ban in Baltimore County. I find that to be offensive and a problem. And so there's work to be done on smart growth, revitalization all across this county. I also was vice chair of our school board. This is where a majority of your tax dollars go. This is what we were in charge of as a school board. And that fidelity to our kids is incredibly important to me. Spent 8 years on our workforce development board for Baltimore County. At a time when we're going to face so much disruption from AI and on, this is a critical skill set for us to be able to empower our people in Baltimore County. I also serve on the board of the Southwest Visions Foundation, which is our local CDC in the Southwest, again, in order to impact and drive revitalization across this county. And I am an attorney, but I am a startup attorney. So I work with venture companies, life sciences, biotech, medtech. I'm one of the few people on this stage who know how to read a financial statement and also how to create jobs. This is critical to the work ahead on what we can do together. But more than qualifications, I think we do talk about disqualifications. I do believe the pension issue, you'll hear about it, is an important thing to keep in mind. It's why we had a county councilman, his name was Mike Ertel. He voted against us at the time because he was uneasy with it. I believe that sort of self-dealing is the type of thing that we've got to turn a page on in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. The question again, how do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Patrick Dyer. You can. As long as you're standing.
As long as I'm standing, very good. Like I said, I'm not an attorney. My wife is an attorney, so I don't believe we could have two in the same household. But like I said, I'm blessed. I come from the business world. Beginning my career at T. Rowe Price, one of the most respected investment firms in the world, and luckily headquartered in Baltimore. I became a supervisor in their rapidly expanding retirement plan service division, all the while getting my MBA from the University of Baltimore, grade school. I have owned my own financial service business for almost 2 decades, and you learn valuable lessons that prepare you to be county executive. As a business owner and president of my company, I learned the following. You learn that hard work, jobs, and tasks do not complete themselves. You learn accountability. We must have accountability in this county. When you are the CEO of your own company, the buck stops with you. You learn results matter. You learn how to create jobs. That's very important in a county executive. You got to know how to create jobs. You learn how to create good judgment, and you learn how to address problems head on. It's so important. I have served as president of 2 of the most recognizable charities in Baltimore County. Last year alone, the Associated Italian American Charities provided over 21 scholarships to students in need and awarded over 50 charities much needed financial assistance. And I was happy to be on stage, and I shook every one of their hands, and they were so excited to receive some additional help. Yes, as my name indicates, I'm all Irish, yet I still became president of the Associated Italian American Charities. I will bring my business experience to the role of county executive. Let's face it, the county executive is big business. The challenge we face of over 840,000 people it's a huge problem. And I have the qualities to face that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. How do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Councilman Pat Young.
So thinking back on my time in the Maryland General Assembly and thinking in who's here and who's running as a candidate, I am the only one that has state experience as a legislator and also serving on the Appropriations Committee. I think about the first challenge that we had in my first year in office to close a $100 million deficit in the budget. And they said it was the biggest one that they had seen in decades, and this was my first year in, thinking what a great opportunity to kind of, work with a professional body and close the gap and work together to figure this out. We had to make tough decisions in order to close it. We had to make decisions within education, within public safety, and within our mental health system. But we were able to close it, working together, and working with the stakeholders and folks who would be affected by it, so that they weren't surprised and that they knew what was coming from the state budget. And then 4 years later, there was an even larger budget deficit that we had to close. And that experience and including people in that process was key. I think about what led me to the Maryland General Assembly, where I came back from the United States Marine Corps, went to Taos University, and advocated as a student to help fix and make the experience of returning men and women entering a university environment better. The mission was to make their experience better. It led to starting a first office and a first space within within Maryland Public Universities for veterans that were coming back, and they hired myself to run be their first director of veteran services. I'm proud to say that that was back in 2010, and now there are 21 of these centers with staff dedicated to helping veterans. My experience isn't about actions that I took individually, but about what we did collectively. And what I found over the last 11 years of being in elected office is that when we exclude the public and don't include folks in our plans, in our programs, and using the expertise of the folks that live here and are affected by our decisions and policies, that's when we get into trouble. As a county executive, that is not how I'll run an office.
Thank you, Pat Young. Thank you. How do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Councilman Julian Jones.
Thank you. First of all, it's a very important question because I have the knowledge, skills, and experience to lead Baltimore County at this time. And I'm going to present to you that I am by far the most qualified person to lead Baltimore County based off of skills and experience. You see, I've spent 32 years in the fire department, rising through the ranks, leading forces during Katrina and many, many incidents here in Maryland. And I know what it takes to make decisions. I know what it takes to lead men and women and to produce a satisfactory outcome. Here in the county council, I've been in the office for 12 years. I've been working very hard to fix the issues that affect each and every one of us every day. For example, I don't just talk about it, I've done it. You want to talk about hungry kids? We're talking free breakfast and lunch to all of our kids. You want to talk about education? College Promise Program, where every kid in Baltimore County can go to the community college for free. You want to talk about police reform? Been there, done that. I've been doing the work here in Baltimore County for 12 years. And that knowledge, those skills, that experience is what makes me uniquely qualified to do this job. So I don't talk about it, I've done it. Furthermore, if we want to talk about the future, we're going to need people who know how government works. It's easy to sit here and say, oh, government is a terrible thing. But the reality is you have to know how to use the levers of government for the betterment of the people that live here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Julian Jones. How do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Councilman Izzy Patoka.
Thank you. So you heard me say earlier that my parents were Holocaust survivors. They weren't English speakers. We had to work harder to get things done. And it's built me up to fight for the current issues we're facing, not only because the way my parents grew up, but my faith, a core tenet of my faith is welcome the stranger. And so with what's going on in our country today, where immigrants are the enemy, they're not the enemy. And one of the things I learned from my parents and from their background is an important skill set is empathy. Empathy is underrated, my friends, and it's something that I think prepares you well to be county executive. You also need skills, practical skills, to be county executive. I've drafted, authored, and managed $5 billion budgets for two of the largest jurisdictions in the state, Baltimore City and Baltimore County. I've worked to build coalitions. We had to build a coalition to expand the Baltimore County Council. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. I've led agencies, I've worked in the private sector, but the most important skill that I'm going to focus on and close with is engaging the community. I go to community meetings every single night of the week, not every other night, every single night of the week. By the time Friday comes, I put in 60 hours because we work during the day, Then we go to the community meetings at night. The reason I do it is because to be an effective leader, to be an effective county executive, you have to understand community sentiment in the church basements, in schools, in areas where communities are meeting so that you can respond not to what's happening in Towson, but to what's happening at communities levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy Patoka. And final candidate, how do your skills and experience prepare you to perform the duties of county executive? Mansour Shams.
Thank you for the question. This is usually where candidates list their accolades, and I'm happy to share my experiences as well. I currently serve in the leadership team of Baltimore County's first ever Community Engagement and Outreach Officer for the Department of Recreation and Parks. I served in the Marines from 2000 to 2004, worked in federal government and the private sector, JP Morgan, built businesses from the ground up, and served as a term member on the prestigious Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. I even founded MuslimMarine.org in 2015 in an effort to unify what I felt was a divided nation, which continues to be today, unfortunately, a divided nation. I received my education from the Johns Hopkins University. My MA is in government, and I have an MBA. It's a dual master's degree. But I don't think that's what truly qualifies someone to lead. What matters most is leadership of character, grounded in morality, justice, and integrity, and a genuine desire to be a servant leader. My life journey has shaped that. I came to this country as an immigrant, not knowing a word of English. And as I mentioned, lived in Section 8 housing and have seen food stamps and things of that nature very close up, and experienced instability firsthand. And just as important, I bring people together. This campaign includes both Democrats, Republicans, and independents, not just as donors. They're actually a part of the team. My campaign advisor is a Christian lady. My communications lead is a Jewish lady. Another advisor is a Republican. That's my superpower, because bringing people together across differences, that's the greatest qualifier, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mansour Shams, thank you very much. Our next question for all of the candidates. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? And I should have looked ahead so that way you could stand here and not get up again. Mansour Shams, you're going to begin this part. Sorry about the exercise. You're a Marine, you're used to it, so you can do it.
Thank you again. The defining issue, in my opinion, in Baltimore County is affordability and the household stability situation. When families are forced to decide, as has already been mentioned, between groceries and BGE bills, we have a very serious problem. Because without stable households, you cannot have a thriving society. We often talk about mental health. We talk about poverty and behavioral challenges in the classroom. But we don't always connect them with household stability. The reality is they're deeply connected. When a home is unstable, it shows up everywhere. It shows up in our schools, in our communities, and in people's well-being. That's the honest truth. We're also seeing rising housing costs, overcrowded schools, and transportation gaps that make it harder to access opportunity. We've seen the BGE bills. Mine was 509 last month. It just seems to keep going up, even though I've kept my temperature between 66 and 69. I don't know how that works. But there's another issue that cuts right across all of this, and that's trust in government. Too many residents feel like the government is not working for them. According to one poll, over 60% of residents don't trust this government. And when people see council members vote for legislation that nearly, again, doubles their pensions, when children in this county are going to bed hungry, it reinforces the disconnect. That's why I'm running, just to make sure that trust is reinforced back into our government and addressing the affordability crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mansour Shams, thank you very much. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Councilman Izzy Patoka.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, start the clock. So there are multiple issues that are difficult ones that Baltimore County faces. In fact, we're not alone in this nationally with some of the, I really am kind in saying that the Trump administration is unpredictable. It's really out of control is what it is, and it's causing an affordability problem that compounds already on an existing affordability problem. Right now, we know our electric and gas bills are really high, but now gasoline has become unaffordable. Our groceries are going up because the transportation costs to move groceries to the grocery store are so great. Our travel and transport is in chaos right now. Try going to the airport and catching a plane. These are compounded by a Trump administration that you never know who we're at war with one day to the next, whether we're blowing up ships in the Gulf or we have a new tariff. We need stabilization, and we have to be strong at the local level. So that's on the national side. Here in Baltimore County, in the local side, Baltimore County has had an unbalanced playing field for decades, where developers have always gotten what they wanted, and communities had to fight and scrape to get a little bit of open space, to not put 115 students into 100 seats. I had to fight like heck. I'm not going to say hell. I had to fight to just get this policy of one student, one seat in Baltimore County. But we did it because it was the right thing to fight for. We need to make sure that we have appropriate open space. We need to make sure that we do right by our stormwater drains, because flooding is no joke. If we don't do it right, there's no going back. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy Patoka. Thank you. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Kimberly Stansberry.
So many things, I don't know where to begin. But we all know that we want accountability and transparency in our government, but we also want a government that works for the people. When I lost my husband in 2022, I had reason to go to the county courthouse. I called first. All I got was, "We're sorry, please hold." You know, it took me days to get done what should have only taken 15 minutes. We need to make sure that government is accountable to the people, because sometimes in the worst times of their lives, they rely on their government to see them through. We need to make sure that when you go to Towson, that people are responding to you, because after all, you're the taxpayer. You're the ones that pay their salaries. We have to be aware that the services are there for the residents of Baltimore County. Making county government work for everybody doesn't just stop there. We have to make sure that our police, our fire, our EMS, and our 911 systems work. When you call 911, you don't want to hear, "Please hold," because it could be life or death. Also, safety doesn't just stop with our first responders, who are so important, but it also has to do with our water, our sewer, our bay. You know, if we can't eat what's in the bay, our fish, our crabs, we're going to lose a huge industry that say, "Do not consume." That concerns me, and it should concern you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Nick Stewart.
I want to take a moment to address the issue that Mr. Patoka raises around one child, one seat, referring to this APFO law. Let's be very clear what this is. It's a housing ban, and it's also racist. And why is that? It's because it prevents any sort of new housing to go into performing schools in white affluent areas in our county. It got so bad in Montgomery County, this very law that we adopted, that 3 to 4 years ago, they overturned it unanimously. because they realize it doesn't work. And instead, in a county that needs to be more inclusive, instead of building barriers to entry and making it us versus them, which we are seeing at the federal level, we've got to stop and say that we can grow this pie. There can be enough for everyone in our county. There can be true and vital abundance. This is a vision of Baltimore County that we are advancing together. The issues break down this way. It's affordability, it's inclusion, and it's making this county more modern. Think about housing costs. Think about the property tax assessments that you are facing. 2 years ago, 24% average increase. Last year, 11% average increase. They'll keep going up. Childcare, on average, $2,000 per month for families. This is not sustainable. Energy rates, the highest in the country. We ought to put a public power option in place on inclusion. Think about how we are losing people for the first time in 100 years because they don't feel welcome in Baltimore County. This is a problem. We have an MBE system that doesn't work. We have the most verified hate crimes of any county in the state of Maryland. And truly, we have federal attacks that need buffeting. But this county council didn't push back and order the county executive to terminate the MOU agreement with ICE. We ought to do that. We ought to lead and make it more modern in this county. On modernity, the pay-to-play culture, I am the only one who has attacked councilman courtesy and said it doesn't work. That is the fundamental essence of pay-to-play in our county. Let's stand up against it.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. Thank you. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Councilman Pat Young.
Thank you. So over the last year, been engaging with the public through door knocking, through phone calls, engaging with the voters of Baltimore County, gauging, one, to see if my concepts, my thoughts, what I've been experiencing as a legislator also meets the concerns of the public. And where there's overlap, there's also clear needs and clear concerns and trepidation about the future of whether seniors can stay in their homes, whether parents can pay for childcare, and now more recently, whether they'll be able to put food on the table. The crisis of affordability is affecting everyone. Everyone in this county, everyone in this region. We need to work collectively with our partners at the state level and other jurisdictions to make sure that we're actively pursuing policies that are making the ability to live and move to Baltimore County a real possibility. We have had folks that have moved out after census data showing that the population is contracted, yet people still want to live in Baltimore County. People still move here, even though population goes down, and part of that is because of a housing stock crisis. When we talk about and think about economic development, this ties to this idea that we need to focus on economic corridors that we currently have that are zoned appropriately for economic redevelopment. We need to rethink policies that create large swaths of parking lots that were adequate in the 1970s, or policies or expectations that folks wanted in the 80s that don't meet a 21st century need. We have dead space that's dying to be redeveloped. And we also need to recognize that there is county property that we can potentially utilize with private-public partnerships to redevelop, to meet the housing need and start to meet the expectations of folks that want to live here, want to work here, but have not been able to find a place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat Young. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Patrick Dyer.
Thank you. So three of the most dreaded letters strung together have become BG&E. These costs are outrageous. They're pricing our restaurants out. What they've done to our school budgets is obscene. We need solutions. We need to let the residents know that we are working on solutions to try to help them out. I haven't seen anything in terms of helping our residents. We must deal with our growing crime problem, especially as it relates to our youth-related criminal activity. Public safety is my first responsibility, and that will be my top responsibility to the citizens. We need to engage these younger kids, give them opportunities, trade schools, activity centers. We need to offer something for them. We must make Baltimore County business friendly and grow our economy. We're going to have to tighten our budget, Look for efficiencies and realize government cannot be all things to all people. Government is funded by you, the taxpayers, and I believe taxpayers have been taken advantage of. Baltimore County needs an efficiency review, and we need the Inspector General to have oversight over all the school spending. I know that was a proposal. It did not get through with, as it should have, but I think that will be revisited. And as it represents a half the budget of Baltimore County, that's a must. Education is the largest line item in the budget. Providing a good education is our responsibility, and a responsibility I take seriously. We need to focus on the classrooms and not the bureaucracy. To summarize, we must focus on public safety, grow our business base, manage our finances appropriately, and reevaluate our public school system for efficiency and results. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Dyer, thank you. What are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future? Councilman Julian Jones.
Thank you. One of the most important issues that are facing us today is our decline in population. The reality is everything that you heard are great ideas, and it's wonderful to commit those services. But when more people leave the county than come, what happens is your tax base start to shrink. When your tax base continue to shrink, and you need not look any further than right next door at Baltimore City, you're left with two choices. You're going to raise taxes or cut services. And Baltimore City had to do both. So when you ride down Liberty Road in the city, you see closed fire stations. That's a cutting services. So what we have to do is grow our economy here in Baltimore County so that we can have the resources to provide the services that the citizens have come to expect and deserve. So number one, what we're going to do, we're going to equate this to the difference between fishing and hunting. You have an economic development, and they basically sit around here right now and wait for people to show up, like fishermen. They wait for people to show up. My goal is to double their size and send those hunters out across the country and maybe even around the world to tell people about what we have here in Baltimore County, the great universities, the great hospitals, and let them know that we are truly open for business so that they can come here and plant their flag and we can grow businesses, grow jobs, increase our population, and have the revenue necessary to provide the services for the citizens. The other thing we're going to do on a personal note as it relates to our citizens, we're going to do what we can to make sure they're getting the best out of their dollars, starting with electricity bills. We have a program that we are supporting, that I'm supporting, community choice aggregation. This has tremendous promise because it gives us an opportunity to buy energy from whom we want to buy it from. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Julian Jones. And before we get to the third question, I want to give gold stars so far to our candidates. They've been sticking pretty good with the time, haven't they? They've been doing pretty good. So I want to give some gold stars. It's okay to applaud that. Our third question from the league. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? This time, we start with Pat Young.
So immediately, in thinking about first 100 days, this concept of providing and reestablishing trust in local government. Too often that I've heard from folks that they're telling me stories about their interactions with county government, and they've been treated or said that they've felt that they've been an adversary to solving simple problems rather than a partner. And part of that stems from the executive level of accountability and making sure that folks interact with the public are providing services from a standpoint of they're here to serve the public first and do a job second. As public servants, there's an expectation from people that interact with county government that if we're going to be agents of change, if we're going to make lives better, that we need to provide service that's expected and that folks want to reach out to our government for. So in the first immediate 100 days, pulling together our departments, pulling together leaders, pulling together the folks on the front line that are engaging with the public and asking them, and this is probably coming from a military mindset of what is your mission as a department? Are you meeting it? And if you are not, why do you believe you're not? What can we do as a county? What can I do as a county executive? And the folks that execute what we expect and what folks want to see from county government. How can we make that better so that you can complete that mission and the folks that engage with county government feel that they're being provided a service and not being treated as some sort of speed bump to someone trying to get through their day. Day number one, that stems from everything. Where we focus on economic development, we focus on schools and working with our union partners. It focuses also on the expectation that we want a public that feels that they're part of solving solutions, solving problems, being part of a solution, and not just a spectator and continuously seeing or asking, why is this happening? Why do things seem like they're getting better? Why are not getting better? Why are people moving? And we only do that by including people in our process. And as county executive, I make a complete commitment to include as many people as possible in how we solve problems in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat Young. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Izzy Patoka.
So think about the timing of the new county executive. I hope to win the election, and if I win, I'll take office in December of 2026. So there'll be a lot of things that are in motion at that time. And you remember, we have the Christmas and New Year holidays. But the things that'll be in motion is the fiscal 27 budget. It'll already have been in play, and so we'll have to make sure that it has the priorities of a new county executive. The other thing that'll be in motion is the state General Assembly will be starting its session in January. And so we need to establish what are our state legislative priorities so that we get it right, so that we don't miss a year. The other thing that I would do in the beginning, in the winter of 26 and 27, is to make sure that we're prepared for a weather event or multiple weather events. It's all about timing. Another thing that's really important to many folks that are in this room right now is to build a relationship with a brand new county council. We're going to have a new council. There's a steep learning curve, and I think it's important for the county executive and leaders like Mike Ortel and David Marks that we form a body that we can work together, we can collaborate, because it's going to be up to the new county council members to advocate for their constituents. And you want to make sure that you have a relationship with the county executive so that your advocacy is successful. I'm going to continue to fight on school overcrowding. I hope that we can get a brand new Overly High School. And I also want to make sure that we have our basic functions in place in order, our constituent services, the thing that our constituents rely on us to do. And so all of those, I hope to be working at a high level. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy Patoka. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Julian Jones.
Thank you. We already talked about the serious problems that are facing the county. So in the beginning, what I'm going to do is sit down with all of our department heads. We're going to sit down with the council. We're going to sit down with the stakeholders, and we're going to make sure everybody understands the problems that are facing Baltimore County and how we move forward together. And then I'm going to solicit ideas, suggestions, but at the end of the day, we're going to have a plan on how to move forward. And part of that plan is going to focus on growing our economy, producing good paying jobs right here in Baltimore County. You know, I've been a realtor for over 30 years. So I have a history of working with people, working with families while they're out looking, trying to figure out, can they afford to purchase a home? Then as a council person, I've had the benefit or the opportunity to work with people to create new communities here in Baltimore County so that each family can have an opportunity to purchase a home right here in Baltimore County. So I'm going to take that experience and make sure we as a government are doing everything in our power to encourage people to purchase homes right here in Baltimore County and give them the skills and the resources to help them get there. So those are just a few of the things I'm going to do. One of the other things we're going to do, having talked to everybody, is, of course, plot the course and put some benchmarks and put some timelines and say, by this time, we're going to do this. And by this time, we should be here.
so that we just don't go about these changes and do these things without being able to make sure that everything we do is specific and measurable so that we can make sure we're on track. So thank you.
Thank you, Julian Jones. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Nick Stewart.
I think it's really critical that we hit the ground running, day one. This is not going to be a campaign, certainly won't be an administration where we have to sit down with everyone, kind of figure out what we're gonna do and why I am in that seat. We know, because we've had more than 500 individual sit-downs, coffees, lunches, with members of our community to be able to build the most comprehensive plan out of any candidate on this stage. Look and compare our websites, what's there, what's not. Look at the 10 op-eds I've written in the last 12 months and published. We stand for something, and there are 7 big things to cover here off the bat by way of summary. Number 1, $200,000 starter homes. Anne Arundel County is doing this minute. We ought to be too. Revitalizing our town centers across this county shouldn't take 9 to 10 years to be where Security Square Mall is, which is nearly nowhere. It doesn't work. Number 2, on schools, actually establishing an Office of Childhood Hunger instead of outsourcing that work to groups like the Student Support Network, which are great, but have a backlog of 30+ schools. Childhood hunger should be a hill we are willing to die on. And we need to protect funding for our community schools. And we need true universal pre-K for our schools to make sure those achievement gaps don't open up and that we drive equity in this county. Number 3, new jobs department to compete on a regional and super regional basis. We do it differently than every other county. We ought to modernize. Create innovation districts for downtown Towson and UMBC, which is what Atlanta did with their partner, Georgia Tech. New police officers, we need about 600 of them in the next 18 months. And I'm proud that we received the police union endorsement behind this effort. We're also talking about a 25% property tax credit for our seniors so that they can age in a very expensive county, and a new Department of Human Rights and Equity so we can finally talk LGBTQ and Black and brown communities in a way that undergirds every decision we make in this county.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Mansour Shams.
Thank you again for the question. From day one, my administration will be grounded on a principle of people and dignity first, always. We'll begin immediately reviewing contracts, identifying inefficiencies, and eliminating waste. The Inspector General's report, if anyone has had a chance to read it, already outlines over $700,000 worth of waste in Baltimore County just this year. The reality is millions of dollars are being wasted or spent inefficiently as we speak, millions in lawsuits. We can fix that and redirect those resources towards what actually matters, whether that's stabilizing families, investing in our communities, or something as simple as fixing potholes that we're all very tired of, I'm sure. And we're going to ask a lot of whys, because too often the answer is, that's just the way it's always been. That's not good enough. Why does every employee need a county-issued phone or laptop? I was at JP Morgan, one of the wealthiest secretive banks in the world. App on my phone and a laptop, they told me go buy and they load up something in my system. Why are we spending large amounts of money to bring agencies to town halls? And this might be something that we may not agree with, but when the real goal is to meet with county leadership and you get a minute and 30 seconds, what's the point of that? Why not just have direct access meetings and allow people, the public, to schedule a meeting directly with their county executive so they can share their grievances and concerns? We can fix that. Why do we, as county employees, have access to a special clinic where I can go, but the public can't? Who approved that contract? What was the cost of that contract? Was it justified to spend taxpayer money? We will examine and we will question everything. I will sit down with every agency, every government head, and we will work in a more efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mansour Shams. Thank you. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Patrick Dyer.
Thank you. I believe the first obligation of a county executive is to provide for the safety and well-being of every citizen. And that's what I'm going to do, and you can count on it. I'm going to focus on solving our crime problem. Violent crime must be stopped in Baltimore County. Towson is under near constant stress and threat of violence. Businesses suffer. Citizens are concerned for their personal safety. And when they're concerned for their safety, they don't shop. We need those citizens to come out and use those services. In my due diligence, as I considered my candidacy, I spoke with many law enforcement officers. Simply put, there's a lack of personnel, training, equipment, and support for our law enforcement officers. Day one in my administration, I'm going to have the backs of the Baltimore County law enforcement. The first line item in my budget will be law enforcement. I had a disturbing conversation with a SWAT officer. They are sleep deprived, sometimes not on service. Leaving the county terribly vulnerable. That cannot happen, and it will not happen under my watch. My second step is to make Baltimore County business friendly. It is simply too difficult to do business in this county. The permitting process is old, slow, and a barrier to our success. The county's permitting process is acting as a growth impediment to our businesses. As your county executive, I am going to streamline this process. Maryland ranks as one of the most expensive states to do business. Operations due to high taxes, utility costs, regulations. These high taxes are driving businesses away from us. We need this revenue. We need these services. We need to make it a priority to grow this county. It's a wonderful county. We need to use all the tools the county government can bring to the table to make Baltimore County an enticing place to do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick Dyer. In the beginning, as county executive, what would be your main priorities? Final candidate here, Kimberly Stansberry.
Well, we have to take a look at the budget. We have to make some cuts. We have to rearrange. We have to make sure that funds go to what is most needed. Right now, that would be safety in the county. Our fire department, our police department need to be well-funded, equipped, so they can handle what we have coming at us. Let's face it, during Christmas, people shop. They want to go, to different activities and events, but they also need to feel safe. We need to provide that for our county. We need to make sure that this county runs efficiently. We are now swimming in a quagmire of red tape. We can't continue to do that. We have to make this county work for everyone at every part. I intend to meet with the Chamber of Commerce to see how we can attract new and different businesses into the county, where we can revitalize places like Towson, who have large stretches of not one business in a whole area. We need to make sure we're attracting things that will generate traffic through Towson. Families, we need to make sure we have activities for children, for our seniors. We have to make sure that this county works for everybody, not just for a few privileged few. It's going to be hard. Hard cuts are going to be needed, because the last thing anyone wants to do is, raise taxes. We're not going to do that. We're going to try to make sure that this county rearranges and puts in priorities where needed, where we do not have to do that. Look, we have BG&E bills, we have health bills, we have to make decisions between food and medicine. We have to be there to help this county, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. Well, you've heard the questions from the league to these 7 candidates for Baltimore County Executive. Now, we want them to answer your questions. We ask folks to fill out stuff on cards, and we will exactly do that. These questions have been selected at random and will be addressed to the panel as time permits. Questions must be related to the responsibilities of Baltimore County Executive and should not be personal. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. This section will go on until a certain time, I'll let you know when that is. All right. Why or why not? Why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County Inspector General oversight of Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets nearly 1/2 of Baltimore County budget? Let's begin with Patrick Dyer.
I fully support the Inspector General overlooking the books of the Baltimore County school system. As we've heard here this evening, the school system consumes half our budget. I think we're doing a disservice to our students not to have the best. We need accountability in terms of where these dollars are going. Just recently, there were 4 departures, high-level departures from the Baltimore County school system. Yet we are left wondering why that is happening. We are transparent. We need transparency in terms of what is going on. Again, as I mentioned, educating our children is one of my top priorities, if not the most. I take that very seriously. We need to give these kids everything, every resource we have available. Why? Because we want them to prosper, and we want them to call Baltimore County their home. I fear for the fact that maybe my children will move away, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to say no. Baltimore County has everything you need to prosper. It's a wonderful county. We have the bay, we have the mountains, we have just about everything we need to make a great life for everybody, as mine has been. So back to the question, we definitely need that Inspector General to overlook the books. That should happen. I will do everything in my power to see that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick Dyer. I'm gonna give you this when you finish. There you go. All right, again, the question is, why or why not do you support the Office of the Inspector General and oversight of the Baltimore County Public Schools? Once again, it's nearly half of Baltimore County's budget. Let's go to Julian Jones next.
Thank you. I do not really support the Inspector General overseeing our schools. Our Baltimore County Public Schools is a quasi-state agency. They have somewhere around 12, 13 auditors who look at every dollar that goes in and out of Baltimore County Public School. I have spent many years, as well as a PTA president, as well as now, in and out of classrooms, talking to teachers, finding out what are the things they need. None of them are saying they need an Inspector General. What they're saying is they need smaller class sizes. What they're saying is they need more resources. What they're saying is they would like the county to honor the contract that we signed. Those are the things they're saying. And right now they're saying, hey, we don't want to not hire 400 additional teachers. These are the things that they are saying. I know far too often what happens is if you have the Inspector General investigate the schools, the first thing you'll have to do is then double or triple the size of our Office of Inspector General. So I don't think that there's a big amount of waste or fraud or abuse that's going on in our school system. I think that they're extremely open, and no one has been able to demonstrate any fraud, waste, or abuse. So I think in the spirit of giving the children what's necessary, giving them the resources to the teachers, making sure our schools are running effectively and efficiently, I don't think the answer is another Inspector General to investigate what's going on in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian Jones. Again, why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County Inspector General's oversight of Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets half of Baltimore County's budget? Izzy Patoka.
I do support the Inspector General having oversight over the Baltimore County public school system. And not only do I believe it, I acted on that belief. I provided written testimony to the state legislative body. I also signed on to a resolution by the Baltimore County Council to encourage the state to pass legislation to have the Inspector General have oversight over BCPS. And I commend Senator Carl Jackson for having the courage to have independent thought and take the lead on this really important issue. When I worked in the governor's office, I was the intergovernmental affairs director, meaning I worked with all 23 counties. Some were county executives, about 10 were county executives, some were Board of County Commissioners, and the mayor of Baltimore. So 24 jurisdictions. And in Maryland, every school system is aligned with county. Every school district is aligned with county. And each county executive would have to turn over half their budget and have no control over how that money was spent. All 24 jurisdictions hated it because the school system was autonomous. They could do whatever they wanted. And so having a little bit of oversight, I don't believe is asking too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy Patoka. Why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County Inspector General's oversight of Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets nearly half of Baltimore County's budget? Mansour Shams.
You know, this is a very bizarre question. When over $2 billion of this county's budget goes to Baltimore County Public Schools. I don't think any one of us would want to live in a lawless society without any accountability. We appreciate accountability, at least I do. You know, recently I read an article, I think it was in the Baltimore Sun, where, and you know, look, we have to have honest discussions, we have to be sincere. When things don't, like from our party or whatever party, don't do something right, we should call it out. That's the right thing to do. I read that even at the state level, you know, Governor Moore pushed back on not needing an IG. I found that pretty crazy. He said, well, we have a company, you know, a consulting firm. We give them millions of dollars. Wow, millions of dollars? So perhaps maybe we can tell them what to do and what not to do? So it's a very simple answer. I don't want to stretch it out, but yes, of course, we should have an IG. Over $2 billion. I have stuff here with me, part of my notes. If an IG report found over $700,000 worth of discrepancies last year, and over, I think, several $1 million over the past 5 years, do we think we can't find some discrepancy in the budget of BCPS, which is over $2 billion? So it's a common sense approach. Of course, they should have an IG. Thank you.
Mr. Mansour Shams, thank you very much. Again, why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County Inspector General oversight over Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets nearly half of Baltimore County's budget? Kimberly Stansberry.
I absolutely support an Inspector General over Baltimore County Public Schools. This is our tax money that is supporting Baltimore County Public Schools, and we need to know where it's being spent, how it's being spent, and if it's necessary. We deserve that. It's our money. $2.5 billion with a B, not million, billion. This is a lot of money to put into a group that is failing our children. Right now, we need to make sure that money is being used in the classroom to hire the appropriate amount of teachers, to make our class sizes the right thing to do. We cannot turn a blind eye to this. We have just had, 4 high-level people in Baltimore County Public Schools resign? Why? Do we know? I don't know. Baltimore County Public Schools has 1 employee and 1 employee only, and that is the superintendent. We need to have someone in there that is for our benefit, to shine a light on where the money is going and how it's being spent. So I do. If we can get an Inspector General as good as Kelly Madigan was for Baltimore County, then we will be doing right by our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. Why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County Inspector General oversight of Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets nearly half of Baltimore County's budget? Nick Stewart.
So my grandmother, Helen Carroll, spent her entire career in Baltimore County Public Schools in the accounting department. And I remember talking with her about this issue before her passing, around accountability. And this was years ago. We needed to improve it then. We're desperately in need of it now. We have a reputation issue in our county. We have to wake up and start making better choices. Do you recall that we spent 3 to 4 months trying to oust the Inspector General from our county when it was working and trying to diminish this office? We're going in the wrong direction. So absolutely, it makes sense to have an IG with oversight over education. Think about Montgomery County. They have this. The state Inspector General for Education supports this. And yet we go in the wrong direction. It's a problem. But I want to go further. In our administration, we will create SchoolStat. This will be a data performance tracking system where everyone has a seat at the table, including and especially our teachers, who were cut out of the process when their contracts were cut, to give informed input into how to weaken that impact and that harm. And the data will be shared across the board in real time because we have the technology to do it now. This is the next frontier of engagement with our citizenry, of being able to solve problems together at a time when we have 50% proficiency in reading by the 4th grade. 75% of our kids are not proficient by 4th grade in math. Every dollar counts. We should have been talking about this already. This should have been our issue and our county council's issue. Every dollar matters. It's up to us to make sure they're spent well.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. And the final candidate to respond to this question from the audience: why or why not do you support or not support Baltimore County's Inspector General oversight of Baltimore County Public Schools, which gets nearly half of Baltimore County's overall budget? And let's go now to Pat Young.
Simply put, I do support the IG to have one authority to investigate complaints specifically related to the school system and related to their budget. For a number of reasons. One, the school system often, and education in general, takes up more than half of our budget. And the county council, the county executive, county government doesn't have any say over how those dollars are spent after they've been allocated to the school system. I supported as well as voted for the resolution that supported the legislation that was put forth in the legislature this legislative session to grant that ability for this Inspector General to have jurisdiction. But I also want to be clear, too, that the allowing for and what the bill does allows the Inspector General to have the ability to investigate when there have been complaints, when there have been something has been brought to their attention, just like with Baltimore County. They have an ability to investigate things and go on their own, but also specifically when there is concern over waste, fraud, and abuse that has been brought from internally or externally from the schools, from Baltimore County, and we want to apply it to the school system. The last thing too, when I was in the legislature and even in the council, there was a consistent call from BCPS for information about their budget, how they're spending their dollars, how they expect to spend their dollars from next year, what their plans are. And while the budget is presented, they were always closed about what their intentions were to address certain problems, certain issues. And these questions came from legislators, but they also came from parents. And if there's any other need to explain why I support this, it's at the end of the day that there's a loss of trust from folks that have kids in the school system when they hear reports that our children are doing well, yet we're also realizing that folks are graduating and not being able to read or do basic math. And there's been a misstep. And part of that's because they're not being accountable and they're not also being transparent about how those dollars are spent. And in my administration, one, I would support that and also work with the school system to be transparent about their budgeting each year.
Thank you, Pat Young. At this point, just let me let you know, we're going to probably be able to get 2 more questions from the audience in here because at about 8:10 p.m., we want our candidates to give their closing remarks. And League of Women Voters wants to make sure you get out of here by 8:30, so to make sure everything is on time. The next question, candidates: what is your position on Baltimore County's cooperation with Immigration Custom Enforcement, also known as ICE? First, Izzy Patoka.
Thank you for the question, C4. So many of you know that I led the effort in the Trust Act. The Trust Act was a set of companion bills. One codified the Office of Immigrant Affairs, and the other component of the Trust Act was to put guardrails up against what ICE could do in Baltimore County. the level at which county agencies could engage with ICE. And so it was pretty simple, although some people made it more complex than it is. Baltimore County can respond to a judicial warrant. Baltimore County cannot respond, Baltimore County agencies will not respond to an administrative warrant. And a judicial warrant is done by someone who is expert in the law. An administrative warrant is done by somebody that works at ICE. And so to me, this was really important. I put in, and thanks to Councilman Jones, he and I co-sponsored, he was the lead sponsor on a bill to not allow an ICE detention center to be built in Baltimore County. I recently introduced a bill, I could not get a second on it, to not allow masked law enforcement for law enforcement to wear masks in Baltimore County. And what we see masked gunmen, so-called police, called ICE, wearing masks. What masks do is they do one of two things. They create fear, they create terror. My two bills that passed increased due process and reduced fear. I'm guided by my faith on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy Patoka. Again, the question from you, the audience. What is your position on Baltimore County's cooperation with Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE? Kimberly Stansberry, you're next.
I absolutely believe that Baltimore County should cooperate. It is a federal law, and we are putting $500 million at risk if we deny working with ICE. Now, let's look at this logically. If we have a criminal that is being detained at Baltimore County, all we have to do is pick up the phone, call, and say, we have a detainee here who has an ICE warrant. Then it is a matter between two law enforcement agencies. They come, they get the person. Baltimore County is no longer having to feed them, clothe them, house them, and provide medical for them. Also, once we do not cooperate, and that criminal, which could be murder, rape, any violent crime, is returned back to the community, it is possible for them to absolutely commit more crime. But that warrant doesn't go away. That warrant remains intact. So now ICE has to go to their residents. They'll go to their parents, to their girlfriend, to their place that they hang out, but they're not coming alone. When we do it at the detention center, it's one law enforcement with another law enforcement. There is basically zero risk at that point. When we put them back out into the community, when it's a whole group of ICE agents that actually serve that warrant, because they always come with backup, that puts our community in danger. So I am saying that we absolutely need to cooperate and do this in a manner in which it does not put our community at risk.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. Again, the question from you, our audience, what is your position on Baltimore County cooperating with Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE? Pat Young.
Thank you. I've been pretty clear about this in the past, and also proud to have supported and voted for the legislation that Councilman Patoka had referenced for multiple reasons. One, we have a responsibility as local government to make sure that all of our citizens and all of our constituents feel safe to live in our county. Nothing else to say to that. They should feel safe to live here. They should feel safe to come here. They shouldn't be afraid of local government and local resources or the police department enforcing federal law, taking the resources away from Baltimore County government and giving what I would say is almost a break to the federal government that should be enforcing their laws effectively in the first place. I've said this before too. My time in the United States Marine Corps tells me one thing, that even in a combat zone, we were not allowed to cover our faces. And I do not believe that any agency that works for the federal government that allows for the covering of your face, covering the ability for you to identify yourself, or also encouraging their employees not to identify themselves when executing their job is legitimate. And we should be recognizing this as a government
that if we see this nationally, we've already seen what they're able to do, what they've tried to do. Forget about judicial warrants, forget about administrative warrants. They don't care what, they'll lie at the door in order to strike fear in the neighborhoods and communities. We have a responsibility in leadership positions to show what we stand for and make sure that our responsibility to the folks that we serve and the folks that live here feel safe, and that we should provide every opportunity that we can to show that. And I appreciate the other council members' efforts in making sure that Baltimore County knows that this is a place that, one, we stand up to the rule of law, and nothing that was mentioned about folks that commit a crime or that would need to follow the criminal process is hindered by the actions that we took, because those violations of the law still stand in place for a process. What we're making sure is that folks that may be here or have overstayed their time or their visas feel safe here, and they're not going to be terrorized.
Thank you, Pat Young. Thank you. What is your position on Baltimore County's cooperation with Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE? Julian Jones.
Thank you. Let me just follow up on the last question. Just to be clear, the IG issue is something that has to be done at the General Assembly level, and they have voted no. So we get that out of the way. Now, as it relates to ICE, it's been 6 or 7 years ago when there was a proposal to bring up the 487G program here in Baltimore County. I'm very proud that I fought very hard to make sure that Baltimore County did not participate with the 487G program. And now today, we are looking at the actions of ICE, which is somewhat, okay, I'm not gonna say somewhat, many times they're shameful and disgusting. The reality is this: when the president said, I want to deport rapists and criminals and all these terrible people, I'm like, sure, why not? But that's not what we see. What we see is they are deporting hardworking people that have come to this country with nothing else in mind other than to be able to feed their families and provide a better life for themselves and their children. And these are the people that we are seeing being rounded up. So I was very proud to stand up against ICE. I've been very proud to continue to speak out against them. I've been very proud to introduce legislation saying, no, you're not going to have a detention center here in Baltimore County. Because let me tell you something. What they're doing is rounding up people, putting them in detention centers or concentration camps, holding them there until they get so tired of being locked up for 6 and 7 and 8 months that they want to be deported. And that's what they're doing. And that's why they want to spend somewhere around $400 and some million or $40 billion or whatever the number is to build detention centers across this great country. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian Jones. Again, what is your position on Baltimore County's cooperation with Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE? Nick Stewart.
So end of day, it's not just about feeling safe. It is also about being seen and being heard. That is the county that we must build together. That is the flag in the ground that we must plant that shares our identity, our moral fiber. That's this moment. And I will tell you this, that we have a real plan of action. If you take a look at our website, it's extensive, to build a more gentle county for all of our citizens. This moment is now. It's not grounded in political theater. In fact, the reason why Mr. Patoka's mask ban didn't get a second is because his own lawyers told him it was unconstitutional and would apply only to local police. I'm not going to grandstand, and I'm not going to scare you into voting for me. We're going to provide real solutions. And these two bills that were referenced, while maybe good in spirit, didn't change at all the MOU that Baltimore County entered into with ICE. So these professions that we're moving in the right direction suddenly, or that we will now, look at the facts. But in our county, we must move forward, not just with terminating the MOU, but in fully funding our Office of Immigrant Affairs, which hasn't been, only 3 people doing that work, with having an actual meeting commission on immigrant affairs, which we have not had, despite it being authorized and approved, by reimagining the way we deliver services in our county to meet people at their door, because in a time of great hunger We have numerous families who are not using the resources accessible to them. That's on us. And finally, as a litigator, as someone who started my career in litigation, I prosecuted cases as well in Prince George's County. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes it costs you money to do that. But because you have a core identity and you're willing to fight for others and see the face of God in every single person, that is what you do when you have to.
Nick Stewart, thank you very much. Again, what is your position on Baltimore County cooperating with Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE? Patrick Dyer.
Thank you. I firmly believe that we are a stronger country, a stronger county through diversification. That is our strength. However, I also believe in the rule of law. That's why I do support 287G. I support it for the safety of our citizens and the safety of our officers. If you have someone, a violent criminal who's already broken our laws, it would make a lot of sense for me just to turn him over while he's in detention rather than to release him out in the community. As I said before, your safety is my main priority, and I'm going to make sure that that happens. So I do support 287G. I just think it makes a lot of sense in our community. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Patrick Dyer. And finally, on this question, before we move to the final audience question, then once again, we will have closing remarks by our candidates. Mansour Shams. I'll repeat the question again. What is your position? There, you're good. You're good, okay. He's good.
This is a question that sort of sits at the heart of things. And as I've committed myself, no matter what, be authentic, be true, be honest. As an immigrant, someone who looks like this, post 9/11 era, I've got my sort of share of discrimination, plenty of it. This campaign started. You can go actually on the website or on the social medias. You can see some of the comments that are being made about myself. And I take them in stride and I move along with my life. My wife has been substituting for BCPS for the last 4 years. And a friend of hers recently called her and said, hey, I think you should stop substituting, again, because of the way she dresses, the way she looks. And she says, what do you mean, why? And it was because, actually, they're both citizens. So the citizen is telling the other citizen, hey, be careful, they might just take you anyway, right? So it's a real thing, and I sometimes, as I told you, it's not that the thought doesn't cross my mind, but I decided to have a conversation with someone very senior in the Baltimore County Police Department, and I asked him, can you please give me, what is it? So I can sort of understand and sort of have a balanced approach, and he explained the process to me, that there is a judicial warrant when there's an act of criminality. At that point, that is exercised. And to me, we may have disagreements, but I think in fairness, if there's a criminal with a warrant in place, I see no harm in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansour Shams. Next question. What is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? Let's begin this time with Kimberly Stansberry.
We can have many things going in at Parkville Armory. I would love to see a senior center. I would love to see a place where our citizens can go and interact, especially our elderly who are at times shut in. They need a place where they can go and have conversations, have coffee, do what they want to do. And this would be a perfect opportunity to let them have fellowship with one another. Because let's face it, our community is aging. One of the fastest growing populations in Baltimore County are 65 and above. We need to make sure that we don't leave them behind. We need to make sure that they have the resources they need. Because let's face it, not everyone can go to a ritzy retirement center. A lot of them will be aging in place in their homes. And they're going to need places that they can go, that they can, catch up on current events, where they can talk to people and make them feel like they are still a part of this community. So I think that's would be a great resource to use the Parkville Armory for that reason.
Thank you very much. Is it Parkville Armory? Is that what it is? Pikesville. Okay, just making sure. I was reading the question. Pikesville Armory. All right. That's okay. All right. What is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? Next, let's go to Nick Stewart.
Well, the truth is, the work being led by David Ginsburg and the Pikesville Armory Foundation is fabulous work. It's critical work. It's work that helps redefine our history in Baltimore County, preserving the integrity and legacy that exists and using it for something intentional and vibrant for the future. And this is a project that should be replicated across Baltimore County. Through my organization that I founded, We the People, Baltimore County, we looked at this, and the truth is, the challenge with Baltimore County, of course, is this project can't be replicated because the process that was created was bespoke. It was so unique and incapable of being replicated throughout our county. And the reason that took place is because we wanted to preserve this idea of councilmanic courtesy, this idea that everything has to run through your specific council member. And so that project, which will take years, is going to take much longer or as long for our other incredible opportunities all throughout Baltimore County. For Pikesville itself, it has close transit access. It represents sort of one end of the barbell for downtown. It can be an asset that helps breathe new life into our downtown if we do it right, but we're not there yet. We talk about facade improvements, but we should talk about the slowness of community, creating a promenade, having those sit-down restaurants that create hours and hours of culture and entertainment. This is possible at Security Square Mall, along Liberty Road, Lutherville Station, Towson itself, East Point Mall, White Marsh Mall, Eastern Boulevard. Guys, we have all of the opportunity that we need. This is not about destroying green space. This is about bringing back that warmth and uniqueness of what makes us us. We can do this if we make better choices.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. Again, what is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? Patrick Dyer.
Thank you. I think first we need to make sure that this the Armory is sacred ground for the veterans and all those people that have served this country. So we need to sit down with all the parties that have a stake in this and make sure it's done correctly. Baltimore County, this is a great idea for Baltimore County because we need areas like this. We need revitalization. York Road is littered with carcasses of just failed businesses, so we need upgrades. There's no doubt about it. So I would sit down with all the individuals involved with this program and make sure it's done properly. But by all accounts, it looks like a wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick Dyer. Again, what is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? Izzy Patoka.
Okay, I want to know who came up with this question. So it's a great question. The Pikesville Armory is just inside the Beltway on Reisterstown Road. It's a 14-acre site, and it was abandoned by the military department. And back in 2017, there was a Pikesville Armory Commission, and they actually, C4 did the visioning for it, but they didn't have two dimes to rub together. But there were advocates that worked hard, gave every bit of strength that they had to this project, and now we have $25 million that we've cobbled together through state, federal, local. Baltimore County's putting $10 million into it, I'm proud. That's a regional destination place. It'll have a senior center is going to move. The Pikesville Senior Center is going to move to the Pikesville Armory. You heard me say I'm a basketball coach, and this part is most exciting to me is my team and I, we don't have any place to practice, and we get booted. We're totally reliant on the schools. So if, let's say, Sudbrook Magnet Middle has an art show in the gymnasium, we're booted out. So the Pikesville Armory C4 will have 6 basketball courts, pickleball courts, volleyball courts. It's going to be I think there's even going to be a black box theater. And these are all great ideas. It was done in a collaborative effort with many, many stakeholders. The Pikesville Armory Foundation has done a good job in being the steward for this project. And it's so cool because on Reisterstown Road, there's a small frontage, but it's very, very deep. It goes back to the community of Ralston, and there's 14 acres, and there's going to be 2 lacrosse fields behind the Armory. If you haven't been there, folks, you've got to get there. And so I'm really excited about it, as you can tell, and I hope that if you come, I guarantee you will join me in this excitement. Thank you, C4.
Thank you, excited Izzy Patoka. Thank you very much. Julian Jones, what is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? I like
Well-
the table. That was good.
Well, first of all, as chairman, I was very fortunate enough to sign the documents to transfer ownership from the county, came from the state to the county to the Pikesville Armory Foundation. So we wish them well. I'm sure they're going to do a fantastic job. But I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about some real serious economic development. I am very proud of Owings Mills, the Triple Crown of Owings Mills. We're talking hundreds of acres. So we're talking about a dead mall, the Owings Mills Mall, which is now Foundry Road, with a Costco, hundreds of apartments, generating a lot of revenue for the county and a place for people to go. I'm talking about the Metro Center, the second crown of Owings Mills, a parking lot for the subway. Now it has 3 or 4 major businesses, hundreds of apartments, a hotel, the Marriott Hotel, that generates over $1 million in taxes to us every year. I'm talking about Foundry Road, a dead solo cup factory. You look at it now, it houses our Wegmans. If you want some more, let's go to Towson, where I was very instrumental in making sure that Towson Road got developed. It was a hole in the ground. So I don't stand before you with these great ideas. I stand before you with the experience to show you that I've done those things. And I am looking forward to making sure that Security Mall can reach its fullest potential. So I've been involved in that in terms of voting for funding and making recommendations. And I am serious about revitalizing all of our older corridors in Baltimore County. I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I know how to do it, and I'm the only one standing here that has done it to any serious degree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian Jones. Again, what is your vision for the Pikesville Armory? Mansour Shams.
So, good evening again. I do not have enough, I cannot comment on this because I'll tell you honestly, I'm not educated enough on it. But I will take up Mr. Patoka's invitation to visit it. And I don't want to beat around the bush and say this and this and that when I don't have enough knowledge about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will educate myself.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Final candidate on this question about what is your vision for the Pikesville Armory. Once again, before we get to closing statements on this, Pat Young.
Thank you, C4. My vision for the Pikesville Armory is 6 basketball courts and a senior center, fields, a destination people. Councilman Patoka, am I leaving anything out? All right. You've been instrumental in the work that you've done, but also I wanted to, we say this because a lot of the stuff that's been mentioned has been the work of the community and the board that was created from an opportunity that the state no longer wanted its space, and it's a huge space, and we put it to the community to work on what a vision could look like that would be value added and keeping the integrity of what that property meant to folks for so long, not just from the military, but the folks that lived there. And I guess lucky to go last, but I'll say that we've heard a couple different versions of different redevelopment opportunities. One that was owned by private entities, another that was owned by the state government. And the line here that connects all of them is that Baltimore County has been reactive in our response to an opportunity that we should be more proactive with. The Pikesville Armory is the largest piece of land that I believe in Baltimore County the state owned that is now was transferred to the board and is now privately owned by them, but it's a public public-private partnership because the county's been assisting in funding. The state has still also assisted in funding for the next step and the next vision and phase of what the Pikesville Armory would be. We've talked about Security Square Mall, where was another opportunity where the county and state were reactive to the community that didn't want redevelopment there or for folks to come in and dictate what should go there without them having a voice, which led to the county putting funds in, now purchasing land, and now the county owning 2/3 of that property to really put into place a mixed-use development that starts from a charrette process that the community was involved with and will be involved with through the redevelopment of that property. Julian Jones had also mentioned about the Owings Mills property in the mall there, which was privately owned, and that the county played a role in zoning to try and make it better. We have multiple opportunities around this county, but we as a government need to be proactive rather than reactive to letting the community play a role in what those places should look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat Young. We are now going to move to our closing remarks. Now, candidates have been so good that we're a little bit early, not too early, but can't squeeze another question in, but really good. Thank you so much for the way that you've treated the time for the answers to these questions. First candidate to give closing remarks for the League of Women Voters, Baltimore County Executive Forum, will be Patrick Dyer.
Let me start again. First, I want to commend all these wonderful candidates. It's a true honor to be here with them this evening. I have a tremendous amount of respect for anybody that puts their hat into the ring. It's somewhat difficult. I, like Nick, I have 4 young kids. I have cats, dogs. I have a crazy household when they have all their friends over. So it's a true honor to be here with all these candidates. For those that I come in contact with that are disgruntled about the current situation, particularly in Baltimore County, I tell them, stay. The best is yet to come. And I believe that. This is about service to me. I've been involved with public service my entire career through my involvement with various charities, as I alluded to earlier. I am obligated to no one but you, the taxpayers, and to make the best decision for this county, free of conflict or outside influences. My commitments to you are as follows. Safe streets, I will support the police. Build a thriving business climate. Make Baltimore County business friendly. Eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from our school budgets. Reduce the operating expenses in every agency, placing a budgeting priority on public safety. Have an open and transparent government. That's much needed. It's time for change in Baltimore County. It's time for new leadership in Baltimore County. And it's time for fresh ideas in Baltimore County. And I thank for your support, friendsofpatdyer.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat Dyer. I think you took my sheet there, Mr. Dyer. My order sheet. That's all right. That's okay. It's all right. Need this to keep straight. If I got an order, they'll talk about me real bad. All right, again, closing remarks, and again, 2 minutes. It's showing the clock there. Pat Young, closing remarks.
So as a lifelong county resident, I've had the unique opportunity and privilege of representing the southwest side of Baltimore County, which has always been my home, and it's the only place that I've ever really called home other than when I served in the United States Marine Corps. I have 2 boys that I'm raising, Finn and Tristan, and I think about the next 8 to 10 years and the direction that we're going. And I think about them and their diverse group of friends, and while I don't want them to have the opportunity to think like me, I want them to have the same opportunity and belief that county government and that the place that they live now and call home cares about them and their future. I know from when I was a child that I didn't have a direct role in how my parents engaged with government or engaged with government. As a young adult, recognizing and growing, actively participating in community events and being involved in local government, and remembering when things worked. That there was a feeling that things were, maybe they weren't perfect, but they were working for us and we were moving in the right direction. And I think about being an adult now and in these positions and seeing that we go in the wrong direction for multiple reasons, but partly because of this overhanging and anchor of a reputation of having pay-to-play politics guide our decisions and our county's decisions, which has moved us into a direction that we feel doesn't work for us, and why people decide to move somewhere else because they think there are more opportunities for them. It's why I chose back in May to pursue public financing, and as of January, I am the only candidate on the stage that is qualified to receive public funds in this race for county executive, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what it potentially means for our government. It means that there is no question about who I answer to, no question about who I serve. That answer is you and the folks that live here and recognize that the future of our county can only be moved in a direction that benefits us if you are put first. Thank you for your support and the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and thank you to all the candidates for participating.
Thank you, Councilman Pat Young. Next, for closing remarks, Julian Jones.
Thank you. My friends, thank you so much for joining us this evening or coming out, sharing your presence with all of us here today. I just want to say this. I have a proven record of leadership and accomplishments. This is very important because this is what's going to lead us to a more prosperous place here in Baltimore County. To be real clear, this is not a game. This is not some game where people just wake up and decide, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is serious business because what we do, 850-some thousand residents in Baltimore County, they count on us doing the right thing for them. So when we talk about housing, I've done that. We talk about economic development, I've been working on those things. I've been doing these things for over 12 years and have been in public service for over 40 years. So I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I have the ability, I have the leadership, and I know what the issues are, having been here for 12 years, working day in and day out to make the lives of everyone in this room better. I want to leave you with one more thing. Many of you know what I'm talking about. Talk is cheap. So a lot of people will talk a good game about what's going to happen and what they're going to do. The reality is, I can tell you, having been there working in government, having been there at the highest levels of government in Baltimore County, it's not that easy. Okay? It's not that easy. So thank you so much for listening, and may God continue to bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Councilman Julian Jones. Next, for closing remarks, Monsieur Shams.
I want to close with something very simple but important. This campaign from my side will remain dignified, but I will never attack individuals. But I will question judgment, and I will question the record. We've seen decisions made in our local government where leaders chose to increase their own salaries and nearly double their pensions. That's a reality. These aren't my words. These are the words of the Banner, who broke the story, and the following articles that came in afterwards. But let's be honest about the context. These decisions weren't made in isolation. They were made while kids in this county were going to bed hungry, while families were relying on food pantries, while we face a teacher shortage, potholes, again, across our roads. So the question becomes, if that's the judgment during times like this, what do we think the judgment is going to be during the more difficult times? And then I think we have to ask ourselves a broader question. The Baltimore Sun has called this a $1 million race. Why? Where is that money coming from? Two candidates on this stage have already amassed over $1 million. So I encourage all of you to go to the Maryland State Board of Elections website, put in all of our names, see where that money is coming from. It's public information. Because if someone hands you a $6,000 check, you have to wonder, what do they expect in return? For the record, as a public finance candidate, I can only take a max of $250 per person. So if you believe in that kind of campaign, I invite you. And I also want to say one other very important thing. Some of what I've been talking about may not affect everyone in the same way, but that doesn't mean we should overlook it. None of us chose where we were born, who we were born to, the color of our skin, or the circumstances that we came into. So if you've been blessed with more, I ask you to be not so numb to those struggles of the ones that are in need. Join me and be a part of that solution. Because when we have a county that works for all, that's a county that thrives for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monsieur Chams. Next, with closing remarks, Nick Stewart.
Well, I hope that you heard some contrast tonight. And the truth is, it's not intended to be personal. It, in fact, makes me think of this quote from an American monk. His name is Thomas Merton. He said, "When I criticize a system, they think I criticize them." And that is, of course, because they accept the system and identify themselves with it. This is our chance to change our system, to become the county that we know and that we hold in our hearts. I'm hopeful. I'm more hopeful now than I have been in a long time, because with great crisis comes the opportunity for great change, but you've got to choose it. And yes, there are bold plans that we have, no doubt about it. But that's because I think we have a sameness problem. And look, if you want more of this, you think we're doing it right, you have three choices on this dais who have 32 years plus of full-time elected experience. You won't choose me, I get it. But if you want something that feels more hopeful and more bold, then that is what we have to offer. Because in a county where you ask the question, why do we do it this way? And the answer every single time, you know what it is. That's the way we've always done it. That's the moment that we realize we need to make the change. If you believe in trying to oust the Inspector General, if you believe in drawing secret maps that disenfranchise a block of voters on our east side of our county, if you believe in doubling your pensions, that is what it is. But for Baltimore County, for this one county that we share on this short time together, we can be united by values we share. Dignity of every person, belief in our individual responsibility to advance a common good. But we have to be bold, we have to be courageous. A fresh start doesn't happen by itself, but if we do it, then as the poet says, we make more gentle the life of this world. And that's what this is all about. I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Nick Stewart. Thank you very much. Now for the 2-minute closing remarks, Kimberly Stansberry.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. This is where I get most of my ideas, where I interact with the public, where people can see me and I can understand what they want in their government. What the people of Eastern Baltimore County and the people of Western Baltimore County, Central and Northern Baltimore County, their priorities are different because their way of lives are different. The things that concern them may not be on the same page as people in another jurisdiction. Look, I'm not here to say that I'm going to use this as a stepping stone to Annapolis or to Washington. I don't want that. I've been in the community my whole life. I can only make you one promise, and that is that I will listen to you. I'm not so set in my ways that I can't take what you tell me and try to make it work for everyone. I am here, I am the candidate. I'm not polished like lawyers because I've worked my whole life. I worked my way through college, I worked my way through family and loss and everything else that everyone else in this room has also gone through. This is a new beginning for Baltimore County, and I would like to lead that. I would like your help in leading that, because when we come together as a community, we are stronger, and we can make Baltimore County the strongest it has ever been. I'm Kim Stansberry, and I do want to be your next county executive. You can reach me at www.kimstansberry.org or our website, electkimstansberry2022@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Stansberry. And for our final closing remarks, Izzy Patoka.
Thank you. We have an important choice to make in just 89 days. We have a federal government that's at the very least unpredictable. We have a very difficult and tight state budget for fiscal 2027 and even tighter in fiscal 28. So this is not the time for abstract thinking and theoretical and gamesmanship. We need experience or we're going to fail. We need to provide a world-class education for the children in Baltimore County. We need someone that'll fight for us and is ready to go on day one. I have a broad breadth of experience in leading agencies at the county level, state level. I've authored and managed multi-billion-dollar budgets. I work constantly on strengthening communities. This is not the time for on-the-job training. In a Patoka administration, look forward to the establishment of the Office of Community Conservation, a highly influential agency that will coordinate activities across the county, specifically in Inter-Beltway neighborhoods and Inter-Beltway commercial corridors. Look forward to an overhauled permits department with 2 high-level ombudsmen put in place to shepherd permits through the process. Look forward to more open space. And in a Patoka administration, you can look forward to a head-on attack on speeding and aggressive drivers. You can also count on someone that will stand up to developers and fight for communities. I'm not going to be a spectator. I'm going to be engaged. This all comes with experience. I'll focus on good government, good public policy, and making sure that communities come first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Izzy Patoka. Could I have all 7 of the candidates that are in front of me right now stand, please? Could you all please stand? Audience, would you give a round of applause to all of these candidates for the very professional and dignified way that they conducted themselves tonight? Also, we, the League of Women Voters, Baltimore County and Goucher College, we want to thank you for sponsoring this event. On behalf of the sponsors and myself, I thank you, our audience members, for coming to this Baltimore County Executive Candidates Forum. We want you to feel free to walk around, talk to the candidates after this is concluded. But remember, we do need to be out of here by 9 p.m. sharp when the doors will be locked at that time. And you don't have to worry about this, but I have a 5:30 a.m. show I've got to do. So I definitely have to be out of here so I can get up and do a 5:30 to 10 a.m. show. But in the meantime, we thank you. Please drive safely. Thanks again. God bless you all. Thank you very much.